This is Gus Wade of ACTV. In today's episode of Meet the Neighbor, I'm here with my good friend Paul Colleton on the roof deck of 305 7th Avenue. Now, Paul's been a photographer in Chelsea for over 30 years, and we're going to talk to him about what it's like to live in the neighborhood and now how New York has changed over the years. How you doing, Paulie?
Hey, good, Gus.
All right, man, good to see you. So you grew up in Rockville Center, out in Long Island?
Rockville Center, yeah, Nassau County.
And did you come into the city when you were a kid?
I did. I was a child model.
You were? I didn't know that.
No.
So you would come into the city as a kid, do the modeling thing.
I would come in and do modeling. I was Montgomery Ward and Sears.
Because the city leaves such an impression. Like, what was your first impression?
I loved it. People.
Why?
People. I loved the people. My sister was a model too.
Right.
And child model. And so was one of my brothers too. And so I would go in, my mother would say, all right, you have to come in with me because somebody's got to watch the car. And I would go, okay.
So how did you get?
I was 9 years old.
All right.
And I would, as soon as my mother and my sister would go in the door, you know, my mother would go, what happened? I said, well, a cop came, made me move. You know?
Right.
And, you know, I was stealing cars when I was like 6.
So this happens to me a lot. People will say, oh my God, what neighborhoods are safe in Manhattan? I just want to throw some neighborhoods out. Now I'm talking late 70s, early 80s. Let me throw out some neighborhoods, and you tell me what was going on. Meatpacking district.
Definitely, unless you're looking for transvestites.
Chelsea, the 6th Avenue corridor from 23rd to 30th Street after 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it was dangerous.
Tompkins Square Park.
You wouldn't want to go there.
Washington Square Park.
No, you wouldn't want to go there too. Unless you were buying drugs.
Times Square.
Yeah. Times Square? No, you know, unless you were going to porno.
Amsterdam Avenue above 79th Street.
Yeah, it was as worse as Harlem.
Okay,
you know, at the time.
So anything above 96th Street.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go. Yeah.
The Brooklyn Bronx.
I mean, I had no problem going to any of those places.
Right.
Because I conducted myself that way. But like my brother, who like dodged the draft and everything,
right.
You know, he got like mugged like 10 times, you know, in this city, you know, until he finally moved out. You know?
So a lot of people moved in, and they moved out because the crime was horrendous.
The crime was bad.
When did it, so what did you, but when you think about the city back then, what were the positive things that you think about? What did you love about the city at that point? The sort of Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, I liked it because it was dangerous. You know, I liked it that way. I mean, I liked everything dangerous. I liked the fact that you could run around, I never, you know, if I got pulled over by a cop, which I can't even remember if I ever did back in those days, you know, because the cops just, they weren't pulling people. People look like me,
right.
They weren't pulling them over, you know?
Right.
They weren't pulling over, you know, blonde-headed white guys, you know? Because they had too much other stuff going on. They had major crime back then, you know? And so they weren't bothering with me, and so I basically I felt like this was my town. You know, they had the Mud Club, the CBGB's, Peppermint Lounge, Danceteria. You know, those are my haunts. I'm a corporate portrait photographer. I'm known for my portraits of CEOs, mostly.
Got it.
Presidents, heads of state.
Okay, so which presidents have you done?
Clinton. I did Clinton, Bush, and
now, Muhammad Ali as well.
Muhammad Ali, yeah, that's another sweetheart of a guy.
And how did that come about?
I was actually for Herbert G. Birch. They needed a photographer. They hired me, and I did a formal portrait of him. And then he went up onto the dais and was honored and all that. And then they brought him up to the presidential suite, where he would do the rope-a-dope with all the heavy hitters.
Right.
You know, anybody who contributed like 10,000 or something.
Oh, really?
Would get to do the rope-a-dope with Muhammad Ali, and of course I was there to capture the moment.
Wow.
So there was this one point where this girl Julie, who was the CEO of Herbert G. Birch's daughter, said, listen, I'm not going to bring anybody up for like 20 minutes. You guys have been great. Let me, you know, there was a big buffet. He goes, you guys have something to eat, you know, and, you know, I'll give you like 20 minutes. So we went to the buffet and got something to eat, and then
you and Muhammad Ali were hanging out doing the buffet together?
Just me and Ali, right?
He wasn't doing any ribs.
He was, I don't know what, to this day I don't know what he had on his plate.
Got it.
But anyway, so we're sitting there munching away, and to break the silence, I noticed that he had this case, this old Samsonite case on wheels, right? And whenever anybody asked if they could help him with it, he would go, no, thanks, I got it, you know. And so I said, champ, what's in the case? know, he goes, oh, and he gets up, brings it over, opens it up. It was full of brochures on Islam.
Ah.
And he said to me, and I'll never forget this, he said to me, Allah, God, and he used both words, Allah and God, saved my life. And I said, well, me too, you know. And he looked at my cases, and my cases have decals from all over the world, and one of them is Vietnam vet. I'm a Vietnam veteran. And so, so he said, Vietnam? And I said, yeah, there too, plus I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I'm sober now 10 years, you know. And he goes, you know, and then he looks at me and he goes, are you mad at me? And I said, no, why would I be mad at you? And then he points to my case again and he goes, because I didn't go. Wow. And I go, no, I said, I had a death wish. I said, you had everything, you know, and you let him take it away. And he got very emotional. He pulled me into his shoulder and we both like cried a little bit, you know.
I want to thank my good friend Paul Colleton for sharing with us his experience in New York City in this episode of Meet Your Neighbor. Thanks for watching and we'll see you again. Take care.